Greetings, all you Bajoran political intrigue lovers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Sup?
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 24, The Collaborator. Alternate title, All the Kai's Men.
Yeah, okay.
A quick note on spoilers, in case our rewatch is your first watch, which is fine. Expect full spoilers through this episode, but only an appropriate minimum of minor spoilers for later in the series. We won't reveal anything too big, like when Cisco starts advertising for Nabisco. You wouldn't think so, but it's a major plot point. He's like, I've just discovered these new Nilla wafers. They are great in banana pudding.
Yeah, it's like, how does no one know about this?
Do Nilla wafers have any use besides banana pudding? I don't know.
I feel like as a kid, I used to eat them because I didn't do banana pudding for a long time, but we just had Nilla wafers sometimes. But now I'm just like, why would you eat Nilla wafers without banana pudding? It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think my grandma always had some around, and she would always give them to me with some peanut butter to eat.
Interesting.
But that's the only other way I think I've ever eaten Nilla wafers, other than just like having a box and stuffing Nilla wafers in my mouth. So, episode not sponsored by Nilla wafers, but
could be. Hit us up.
Nilla wafer, yeah, totally. I totally do not object to Nilla wafers as a product. No. And now we're going to get comments. It's like Nilla wafers, like started as like in the Holocaust. Like, anyway, this episode of Deep Space Nine originally aired May 22nd, 1994, which was the night before All Good Things.
Yep.
So
this is the last episode to air within the run of the next generation. So.
End of an era.
Yep.
That must have been quite a week for Star Trek fans. The episode was written by Gary Holland, Ira Stephen Bear, and Robert Hewitt Wolfe. Story by Gary Holland.
Do we know Gary Holland? Has he done other stuff?
I don't think I've seen his name before, now that you mention it. I was just focused on how annoyed I was that Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolfe worked on the same episode, because I get their names confused easily.
So many names. He did 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine, 1 episode of Voyager, and that is the entirety of his credits on IMDb.
All right. Well, okay.
The Collaborator, yeah.
Sure.
And Children of Time. Okay.
I don't know if I remember exactly which one that is, but
it will actually come up in some discussions later, so.
Oh, okay. And the episode was directed by Cliff Bole.
Yep.
Star Trek directing legend. And let me just say in a personal note how happy I am to be back in Deep Space Nine. I apologize we had to miss an episode. I regret it.
Is Cliff Bole that guy who Wesley Crusher didn't like?
Possibly.
I just remember that discussion. Sorry. Yeah.
And by Wesley Crusher you mean Will Wheaton.
Both. You know.
It's implied in the script that Wesley Crusher also didn't like Cliff Bole.
Exactly. Yeah.
He didn't like the cliffs of Bole. It's like Wesley Crusher hated those cliffs, and then Will Wheaton hated Cliff Bole, the person.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get into the recap segment of the episode. What do you call that? Like a segment? Like a...
I mean, segment, yeah.
I was thinking we need to do more segments.
Okay.
In this spot. We'll discuss that in season 3.
We need more segues into if we're going to be doing segments.
We can have a segue segment. Okay. So, yeah, recap of this episode. We begin with Vedic Bareil walking through a fuzzy golden promenade. And so, of course, if you've been watching Deep Space Nine, you know what this visual language implies. But as he passes the mall directory, he bumps into a hanging body in Bajoran religious robes. Then he sees Kira practicing that Bajoran racquetball game. Like, what's it called? Is that spring ball? Or
spring ball, yeah.
Okay. He asks her to help cut the body down, and seems to recognize the dead man as one Prylar Beck. Yeah. But Kira says, no, it's not. It's you. Bareil looks down at the dead man and sees that she is indeed correct. End of vision.
And we watched the episode and I still don't know what that vision's supposed to mean.
That's a good point. I think it's kind of clear what some later visions mean. But yeah, this vision saying that, interesting. Maybe it's that, like, Beck sacrificed his conscience in service of something, of a difficult decision or something like that. I don't know. So Bareil, we cut to Bareil looking stunned. He closes the orb that he's been huffing, which, like, he huffs that orb a lot this episode. He's hitting that orb pretty hard. And he contemplates. What's the orb he has again?
The orb of... Is it the orb of... No, it's the orb of... hold on. Bajoran orbs. I gotta look at the list again.
It was previously...
It's the orb of prophecy and change, maybe?
It was previously the sexy times orb. The orb of seduction.
Yeah, okay. That's the one that Bareil's always messing with, is the orb of prophecy and change.
Okay. Makes sense. I buy it. We cut to Kira's quarters. Bareil stands shirtless and stares at the stars. He is joined by Kira, and the two begin a Game of Thrones style sexposition scene, which always annoys me. I'm always just like, can you please put your clothes back on and talk faster? But where we learn that the election for the new Kai is in a couple of days, and Bareil is the frontrunner. He jokes that he's here for Kira's vote, and she assures him that he has it.
Well, she was going to vote for what's his name, but...
Yeah, I was going to vote for some other guy, but, now that you railed me pretty good, I guess you can have my vote. Which, okay, I'm confused. Are regular people allowed to vote in this election?
Yeah, see, that was my thing. It was like, I didn't think that was, but...
I thought it was established in a previous episode that only the Vedic Assembly can vote.
Maybe it's like an electoral college thing where everybody does get to vote, and then the Vedic Assembly is supposed to, like, take that into account when casting their votes.
Or maybe they were just both joking around. Who knows? But Bareil tells Kira no matter what happens, he won't lose her. And he says those deadly TV show words, I promise. Never say that on a TV show. On the promenade, Vedic Winn, boo, is talking to some children, as all religious leaders should be forbidden to do, and tells them that if you honor the prophets, then the prophets will always love you. But Bareil and Kira walk up and Bareil counters that the texts say that the prophets' love is unconditional, which technically does not contradict what Winn said, since any if-then logical statement that begins with a false is true. But anyway, so she said, like, if you honor the prophets, they will love you. And he's just saying, well, if you don't honor the prophets, they will also love you. But she didn't necessarily imply the inverse of that.
I feel like it's implied.
Sure. I'm just,
especially since she counters his statement with being like, well, that just proves how, like, the prophets can be misinterpreted.
True.
The fact that you think that.
If I was standing there, I would have gotten all nerdy on them, but whatever. But as you point out, she gladly jumps at the opportunity to get in some verbal sparring, as Winn is so good at. Then Kira asks Winn what she's doing on Deep Space Nine, and Winn basically says, that's for me to know and you to find out.
Yeah. She's like, none of your damn business. That's what.
Then Kira gets in on the sly verbal jabs by saying that she'll tell Odo to beef up security in light of the assassination attempt that happened last time Winn was on the station. And then Winn asks what Kira is trying to infer, which is incorrect, since Kira is clearly trying to imply something, not infer.
The Kira should have countered with, no, I'm implying, right. You're inferring.
It's like, I imply, you infer. The inference has clearly been made by Winn. Anyway, and obviously the inference was clearly made long ago by Kira. And you never try to infer something. You just kind of do it naturally, I feel like. Elsewhere on the promenade, a Bajoran traveler bumps into an old man, then does a double take. He recognizes the man as notorious Bajoran collaborator Kubis Oak. A crowd forms, and Odo is quickly on the scene. Odo recognizes Kubis immediately from his own days of working with the Cardassians, which he gets a pass for some reason, and cheerfully places Kubis under arrest. And then for some reason I had the subtitles on during this part, and the subtitles say mutters of approval. So all the Bajorans are like, yes, I approve.
Yeah, get Secretary Kubis out of here. So apparently in Gary Holland's original pitch for the episode, like the whole thing is about an elderly Bajoran guy who's been living on Cardassia and he wants to come home to Bajor. So this is I guess the part that references that. But it's discovered during the episode that he has some sort of dark secret, and Kira is assigned to find out what it is, which is a really weird way to say that because it's like, oh no, he's got a secret of some kind. Kira, you find out what it is.
So wait, okay, sorry. Did you say they didn't know he was a collaborator
when
he tried to repatriate?
It just says he lived on Cardassia for many years. He wants to come home, and then it's later discovered he has a dark secret. At first, it seems the secret may be that the man is the murderer of Kira's father.
Whoa.
But later, it transpires the murderer is in fact his daughter, and he is covering up for her.
Oh, man.
So that would have been an interesting, though not as overall, like, to the story of the show as a whole important, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. On his way to the clink, Kubis makes meaningful eye contact with Winn.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how does he know who she is? Maybe he keeps close tabs on what's going on back on Bajor while he's living on Cardassia. But it's like who she is and that she might be open to like helping him in some way.
So I thought long and hard about this, and so let's see what my notes are here. So my best guess is that Kubis must have been tracking the political situation with the Kai election.
Okay.
And that he called Winn ahead of time to arrange sanctuary in exchange for basically testifying what he knows about Vedic Bareil. But apparently, because he never says anything untrue. So he's not like just trying to throw anybody under the bus. But of course, Winn would jump at this opportunity.
Right.
Which also explains why she's on the station.
Yeah, okay, that does make sense. That's a good point. I hadn't actually... Yeah. I guess I assumed that her conversation with Cisco later was her whole point in being on the station, but...
Sure, okay, that could be...
It's not necessarily. That's...
Yeah. So in another fuzzy yellow vision, Bareil has just been appointed Kai, and everybody's like, blessings to the Kai. And this is some smart filmmaking here. We see Bareil wearing the Kai robes, which are different from Opaka's robes.
Yep.
But we see Bareil in the outfit so that later we will immediately recognize something. But suddenly there's a bright light and Kai Opaka shows up. Opaka beckons him to follow her, but Winn warns Bareil that her path is narrow and he must be careful not to stumble. However, he must follow, because it is his destiny. Prylar Beck then emerges holding a box, which he offers to Bareil. Bareil opens the box, and it's a snake! Snake, it's a snake.
A snake, a snake. Yes, okay.
Badger. Opaka tells Bareil to take the snake. Its venom will make him stronger. Which, whenever someone says, like, take the snake, the venom will make you stronger, that's when I'm like, no, I'm out.
Well, no one says that in real life. It's always in some sort of, like, weird vision.
True. It's a
that
vision,
someone would say something like that.
And Bareil's probably a very practiced vision experiencer, so...
Yeah, I mean, he's always hanging around with that orb, so...
Yeah. Bareil takes the snake, and it transforms into a noose. We get what I'm pretty sure is the exact same 2 shots of Bareil looking surprised then closing the orb as we got at the beginning of the episode. And I went back and double-checked this. It almost passed me by. I was like, man, that's a really similar shot of Bareil closing the orb. And then I went back, and I'm pretty sure it's the exact same 2 shots. His reaction shot, then him closing the orb. So I figure probably at the beginning, since he had the vision, then it just cuts to him in bed with Kira. They wanted to make it clear he wasn't, like, he was doing this in the orb. Nobody was having a dream or something like that. I don't know. Next, we get a scene where Odo confronts Kubis in his cell. And we get an overview of Kubis' role in the occupation. Which is basically he was, like, the guy who talked to the puppet government on behalf of the Cardassians.
Yeah, and, like, rubber stamped all the Cardassian orders.
Right.
So that there was, like, oh no, a Bajoran made this decision.
Exactly. Kubis argues that he made the best of a bad situation and kept the situation from getting 10 times worse, but Odo is not impressed. Recalling that Kubis spent all his time on Deep Space Nine, or Terok Nor, or whatever, and that Gul Dukat described him as his favorite Bajoran. But Kubis says that he now regrets his past, and as an old man, just wants to return home. At this point, Kira walks in and expresses her contempt for Kubis, pointing out that not only is his name number 4 on the list of exiled Cardassian collaborators, but also he personally signed every single order sending Bajorans to die in Cardassian mining camps.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, you got me there.
He's like, I mean, yeah, I did that stuff, but...
I mean, true. Can I come home, though? Then we get the scene where Winn pays a visit to Commander Sisko and tries to mend the public perception of her relationship with the emissary.
Which I actually really like this scene. And
yeah, pretty good.
I think the two of them play it really well with the... There's so much subtext to what they're saying.
It's like everything is subtext.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you read it at face value, it's just like a nice little chat.
Yeah, it seems very friendly if you just take it at face value, but it's the exact opposite, basically.
Right. But yeah, Sisko maintains his neutrality on Bajoran affairs, but offers to appear with her before the Vedic Assembly if she wants to endorse Bajor's entry into the Federation, provided that appearance happens after the election, so he doesn't present the appearance of favoritism or whatever. Winn agrees with obvious duplicitousness.
Yeah.
Or duplicity, I guess is the correct word. Okay, so the situation with Sisko, I'll take a little aside. It was kind of reminding me of, you know who Haile Selassie is?
Yeah.
He was the emperor of Ethiopia who's worshipped by the Rastafarians.
For the rest, yeah.
But he always maintained that he was not anything. Like, he was a regular Christian. And then one time he visited Jamaica, and it was like this huge, to-do. But he just went there to tell people. He's like, hey, look, I'm not your, Messiah or whatever. I'm just like a regular guy who's also the emperor of an entire country, but don't worry about that. I belong to the Ethiopian Orthodox religion, and I think all of you should consider, joining that religion.
Sure.
And people are like, So I was just kind of pondering what it must be like to be in that situation where you're kind of almost worshipped by a religion that you have no investment in. Of course, we'll get way more into that whole thing as the show goes on. I imagine. I don't know.
Or not, that'll be you don't want to spoil anything big,
right.
when Sisko abdicates the emissary position in favor of Bashir.
Right. So I want to appoint a new emissary. I give you Julian Bashir. He's like, okay, I want all the hottest Bajoran females to report to this location. And then I'll totally emiss to the prophets for you or whatever you want. I don't know what the verb is that an emissary does.
Oh man, Haile Selassie got deposed in the 1974 Ethiopian coup d'etat.
Oh no, poor Haile Selassie. Anyway, Odo calls Kira and informs her that Winn has granted Kubis sanctuary on Bajor. So Kira has Winn's ship delayed and confers with Odo, who is already in the process of tracking Winn's internet history. It seems that she looked up information on Prylar Beck, who we learn is another Bajoran collaborator, supposedly, believed to be responsible for betraying the location of a group of freedom fighters, leading to the so-called Kendra Valley Massacre. Then Beck supposedly killed himself and confessed in his suicide note to the whole thing. Odo confirms that Beck and Kubis knew each other. Winn arrives in Odo's office and asks to speak to Kira about the ship delay issue. After Kira threatens extensive security procedures to delay Kubis' departure, Winn reveals that Kubis has agreed to name names of the person who ordered Beck to betray the freedom fighters, which led to the Kendra Valley Massacre.
Despite the fact that he has absolutely no actual proof to name any names.
But that name? Vedic Bajor.
What?
Kira is incredulous, rightfully so. So Winn charges Kira with investigating and finding the truth. Which I gotta point out, of all the people in the entire universe, the two people who should least be investigating the situation are Kai Winn and Kira.
Yeah.
It's like her chief political rival and his lover. But I guess that's what we're doing. Kira agrees in exchange for Winn keeping the accusation secret. Winn agrees, then does a little dig at Kira for her disrespect. She's like, don't you ever fucking disrespect me again, you little... Which is like, man, Winn getting a little intense here. So Winn and Kira go to listen to Kubis' story, which is that Beck was upset in the weeks leading up to the massacre, and then the day after the massacre, Bareil visited Deep Space Nine, or Tarak Noir, or whatever, and had a long conversation with Beck in his quarters. Kubis didn't hear what was said, but heard shouting. From this he deduced, somehow, that Bareil ordered the massacre, and that he was wanting to confess, and that Beck killed himself to protect Bareil, which, how you deduce that?
No, there are so many more explanations that make so much more sense. It's like, maybe Bareil figured out that Beck did it and went and confronted him about it.
I mean, that's the obvious explanation.
Yeah.
Like, Bareil came to chew him out for, like, his thing, and then, like, the shame of that revelation caused Beck to kill himself. But I will say that Kubis, or who uses the word enormity? Someone uses the word enormity correctly, which that is a frequently incorrectly used word. So he said, like, realizing the enormity of his actions, he wanted to confess or something like that, which is the correct usage of enormity. Anyway, Kira is, again, rightfully dubious of this whole situation.
Yup.
So Kira naturally calls Bareil to hear his side of the story. He says that he came to visit Beck, but that what they discussed was confidential spiritual advice between a monk and his Vedic. But Bareil says he wasn't behind the massacre. He doesn't know any other relevant information. Which...
Okay, so...
Uh-huh.
What he's like... What I feel like he says is, like, Winn will never be able to get any proof that I was behind the massacre. I don't recall if he actually tells Kira that no, he didn't do it.
I'm pretty sure his line was like, I wasn't involved, therefore Winn won't have any proof. Well, okay. I can actually pull it up really quick. It's really easy to tell the scene because he's like on the video phone thing.
Yeah, that looks very different from anything else.
Okay, here it is. Believe me when I tell you, there's no reason to worry. I had nothing to do with the massacre. And Winn will never be able to prove otherwise.
Okay, there you go.
Kira and Odo investigate old records and find that communication records surrounding the massacre are for some reason under a high-level security seal, which could only have been put there by a Vedic. Kira confesses to Odo that she fears what Bareil may be guilty of, and that she loves him. And Odo seems initially shaken by this statement, but sort of shrugs it off as disdain for humanoid love. So, interesting little thing there.
Yeah, this is a Odo, like Odo's reaction to like her being like, "I'm in love with him," is
right.
a big thing in the notes here.
He's like, "Oh,"
because it's like the writer's like, I did not expect that reaction that Odo gave.
Huh.
So I guess it wasn't in the script, or at least it wasn't in Gary Holland's original version. Because it says that's not how he'd written the scene. Like many fans, he took it as an indication that Odo was secretly in love with Kira.
Sure. But his intention was just, like, more of Odo, like, you know, oh, you humanoids and your love.
And so that directly influences him writing Children of Time in Season 5.
Ah, interesting. So I guess, like... Rene Auberjonois came up with that on the spot, or Cliff Bowl, or someone.
Yeah. I don't know if it was. Yeah, it could have been him. Could have been the director. Rene just was always like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that Odo secretly loves Kira, so I'm going to go ahead and slip that in here."
I mean, they must have worked it out at least together, because it would just be kind of weird if you just like came out with that like weird reaction. But interesting.
Yeah, and David Livingston is also quoted in here, talking about like Cliff and Renee working together to make this great scene. And he has that one moment, and he covers it up by saying, well, we all knew you were in love with him, and it's this wonderful performance.
Yeah.
And your attachment to Odo is much greater just for that one moment where you realize that he's human, like the rest of us. He may be poop in a bucket, but he's human.
Yep.
And he says Data was always the observer, but you never felt with Data because Data didn't feel.
I don't necessarily know about that, but
yeah, I was like, I don't know that I agree with that, but I see where he's trying to come from there.
Interesting case of an actor, like, making a choice, I guess.
Yeah.
So Kira and Odo pay a visit to Quark, who is already in a bad mood, as today is payday. And I guess
the way he pays his employees is so... He's like, okay, let me count it out to you and then try to stop early. Right. Oh, no, you know how much you get paid? Okay, I'll try to stop early again. Maybe I'll be able to trick you the second time. No? All right, well.
Yeah, it's like, I'm never going to forget, like, how much money I'm owed.
Well, especially when it's such a simple... It's like, you owe me 7 for the week. Like, I'm not going to think that might be 5.
Like, if a couple of dollars is missing from my paycheck, I, like, start digging, like, it's like, okay, did they take out some extra benefits or something this month? What's going on? So, yeah, but he becomes even more guarded being visited by the 2 people who dislike him the most.
Yeah, which you would be.
Right, now, yeah, totally, rightfully so. They explain the situation, and Quark reluctantly agrees to hack the records for them. But he brings up Rule of Acquisition 285, no good deed ever goes unpunished.
Yep.
And then I like the part where, like, Odo starts trying to advise him on, like, how to hack the records. He's like, yeah, that's how I'd do it if I was, like, an idiot. It's like if I was, like, if I wanted to just barge into the system like a rank amateur.
Yeah, Odo, if you're so smart, why don't you do it yourself?
Yeah, I mean...
What are you coming to Quark for?
There's a reason you came to Quark. Let him do his thing. While Quark does his work, Odo shows Kira the place where Beck killed himself, and recalls that he always thought of Beck as a good man. And Kira says, well, a good man wouldn't do what he did. And Odo says that if he knows anything about humanoids, it's that even a good man is capable of evil deeds. That age-old question. So Quark shows back up, reports that he broke the security seal, but all the files have been erased. So that's good work, erasing the files and putting a security seal on them.
Right, yeah, that's, I guess to keep anyone from knowing the files had been erased if they're casually looking.
I guess. I mean, it was seeing the security seal that made them suspicious, but... from there, Kira goes to O'Brien, who is able to partially retrieve the retinal scan of the person who erased the files. And that partial retina belongs to... Vedic Barile.
It's like O'Brien doesn't get a lot of play in this episode.
Sure.
And Sisko only gets the one scene. This is a very kind of Bajoran-centric... Bashir doesn't show up at all.
Yeah, no Bashir, and Dax gets, like, 1 or 2 lines.
Yeah.
Very, very minimal. This is definitely not a Starfleet episode.
No.
This is a Bajoran Affairs episode.
I don't mind that every now and then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's always, I think, a sign of a really strong show, that you can spend a whole episode focusing on one set of characters and, one situation.
Right.
Which we talked about before. And, like, there's no B story or anything in this episode. It's, like, all...
Yep.
Going to it.
I wonder if they take advantage of that to have, like, 2 episodes shooting at the same time. Like, yeah, we're not going to need Bashir or Sisko or really O'Brien much here, so you guys can shoot another, some scenes for the next episode.
If they were smart, that's what they would do. So in another vision, Barile sees Prylar Beck, admonishing him for betraying his trust. Then Barile flashes to himself getting sexy with Winn, who tells him, "You will be rewarded." So, I mean, what kind of secret desires is this revealing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then a vision of Kira saying, "Accept this gift from the prophets." And she's wearing her weird little, like, one arm, one shoulder thing, which I think is supposed to be some kind of Bajoran negligee or something. But I don't know. But then she stabs him.
Yep.
And as he dies, Opaka tells him, "Let the prophets comfort you, my child." Then we cut to finally a different reaction shot of Barile looking surprised at the orb. But I'm pretty sure, again, we get the same shot of him closing the orb box. But I didn't go back and double check that one. Then there's a knock at the door. It's Kira, who confronts him about his role in the massacre. Okay, I want to pause here, by the way, just before I forget this point. Where is the orb? Is it in Barial's monastery?
Yeah, he just brought it to his quarters on the station. He just carries it around with him. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, this scene appears to be in some kind of Bajoran shrine or something. So it's either on the Bajoran temple on the station or back down in his monastery.
Maybe he's important enough to be like, bring it to my room. I want to look at it some more.
Because at first I was really confused because like it shows him looking at it. Then the next scene, he's in Kira's room. So I was like, so did he bring it to the temple on the station? Or was this a vision he had earlier before he visited the station? It's not clear, and I guess it's not really that important. But So yeah. She confronts him about his role in the massacre. This time Barial admits that he betrayed the rebels, but claims that he did it to save thousands of innocent civilians from brutal Cardassian retaliation. Kira feels upset and betrayed to learn that Winn was right all along. She calls Winn to reveal the truth, but Winn reveals that Barial has already stepped down from the Kai election.
So she no longer cares about the truth.
Yeah. I was like, wait, do we want to wasn't the whole point to expose this horrible collaborator responsible for the massacre? But she's like, no, gonna let it lie.
It was to get votes. That's what it was all about.
So he doesn't seem to have said why, but something doesn't sit right with Kira. It's totally out of character for Barial to go to such lengths to cover up his actions.
Yeah, she's not like it's out of character for him to have betrayed people in order to, I guess, save other people, but it's out of character for him to have not been willing to take responsibility for his actions.
Right. Well, I mean, even just to go to such lengths to delete files and do a security seal and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So she pays another visit to Bajor, or possibly the first visit to Bajor, depending on where that previous scene took place.
Yeah, right.
And is greeted by Winn wearing those Kai robes we saw earlier, so he immediately knows what happens. Winn tells Kira to pass on to Sisko that she must postpone their appearance in the assembly, as we could have predicted would be her immediate... She immediately went back on their deal.
Yep. She didn't even wait until 5 minutes after becoming Kai. She walks out and is like, okay, well, I got what I wanted, so screw everybody else.
It's they've obviously just put those robes on her. And she's just already reneging on all her campaign promises and deals and stuff. Soon Barial appears, and Kira reveals that she found more evidence proving that Barial couldn't have been the one who betrayed the rebels. From this, she deduced the truth. The traitor was Opaka herself, who made the impossible decision to sacrifice her own son to save 1,000 lives. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but Opaka's son was killed in the massacre.
And there's a great quote in here from the lady who plays Opaka, who says, she said, I read the script and I went, I had a son? It was shocking and it excited me. I thought it was very progressive and showed that this is another world after all. We tend to apply American sensibilities to outer space, and I thought, not only was she Pope to Bajor, but the Kai was a working mother.
Huh.
And then she's like, I didn't understand why what I did had to be kept secret. It was a heroic deed. It was like Oscar Schindler. I sacrificed 40, including my own son, to save 1,200 people.
Oh, that's a good point. Would it be so bad if this truth came out? I think a lot of Bajorans might not judge her so harshly. But Barial made the decision to protect her memory. Kira laments that now Winn will be Kai, but Barial says that it is the will of the prophets, and that their role will now be to guide the new Kai through all...
Yeah, that'll work.
Good luck with that. Barial asks what Kira wants, and she kisses him and leads him off to pay their respects to the new Kai, which she already did 5 minutes ago. But let's go do that again.
Right.
The end.
So apparently the original plan through the whole season was that Barial was going to become Kai here at the end of the season.
Uh-huh.
And so Ira Stephen Bear is in here. He says, we talked about it all year about Barial suddenly becoming Kai. The whole year. And we had these conversations. And then we started working on this show and talking about a collaborator. And I suddenly realized, we don't want Barial as the Kai. What the hell good is that going to do us?
Yeah, exactly.
He's a friend, and he's not going to cause trouble for the Federation. The trick to drama is to find the person who's going to cause the most conflict and put him in the most powerful position.
Yeah, exactly. You have a character like Winn. there's endless milking of
Yep.
the what can happen when Winn is the space pope or whatever.
The space pope.
Crocodilius Pontifex. But she is not, as far as I know, a crocodile.
I wonder if you can get like I want to, you know how like the Catholics have like the picture or whatever on the wall. I want to now get like with like, you know, a fancy frame and stuff around it. I want to get like a space pope picture to hang up. Like that.
Somebody has made that. I'm almost 100% sure. So there's one point I'm still a little confused about, which is how much did Winn know about Opaka's role in the massacre, or how much did she deduce? Like, so okay, I guess there's two possibilities. Either Winn genuinely believed that Bareil caused the massacre, that he was guilty, or she knew that Opaka did it, but knew enough about Bareil to know that he would take the fall in Opaka's place.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's tough, because I feel like Bareil is trying real hard to, you know, keep anyone from knowing that it was that it was Opaka, which leads me to think that probably not a whole lot of people knew. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Winn's clever. She might have pieced it together.
But Opaka is so beloved that, like, I don't know that Winn would get anything good by like dragging her through the mud, even if what she's saying is true.
Right.
Like, I don't think that ends the way that she wants it to end. Like, the people are not going to love her for that.
Right. Well, you know, so if that's the case, she must be just like trusting in Bareil's love of Opaka or whatever to cover up for her. But yeah, that has a huge potential to blow up in her face if it doesn't play out exactly the way she predicts.
Right.
So she must just be, yeah. Or, you know, possibly she doesn't know anything and she's just like trying to stir up some dirt. And, you know, she's trying to do an October surprise on Bareil and doesn't really care what's true or what's not. That's a great thing about Winn. You know, you never know what's going on in that head of hers.
Yeah, it's just whatever she thinks is going to help her, regardless of any moral considerations. It's like assassination. Yeah, sure, why not?
Oh, for sure.
Lying to the entire planet. Yeah, of course I will.
Yep. Anyway, any other good memory alpha tidbits or something?
Let's see.
I know I've been listening to a lot of Deep Space Nine podcasts. I know a lot of them like do memory alpha, and a lot of them like just like say the same facts that we bring up. But
yeah,
I think we're the best at it though. I think we have the best commentary.
It's got some silly things, just like the visible tension between Winn and the crew of DS9 is left over from her attempt to stop Keiko O'Brien, also to assassinate Vedic Bareil, which I think is the bigger issue. But...
Right. I'm sure they're not too thrilled with the whole, like, trying to mess with the school and all that, but yeah.
The name of Kai Opaka's son is not revealed in the episode, although there is a book where he is called Facile.
That's interesting that you said that the actress was surprised to learn that, because for some reason, when they said that, I guess it created like a Mandela effect in my brain that had been brought up in the pilot, but I suppose not.
No, I don't think so. There's several Watergate parallels in the episode. For example, the scene where Quark helps Kira bypass the security lockouts. Or the Prylar Beck character, whom the DS9 companion claims is based on John Dean.
Ah, well, I mean, that's a stretch. I mean, John Dean was the guy who, he basically blew the whistle in public and testified the whole thing. He didn't he didn't take the blame for anything and kill himself, as far as I know.
Let's see. So, yeah, known for his role in the cover-up of Watergate, subsequent testimony to Congress, his guilty plea to a single felony in exchange for becoming the key witness. After his plea, he was disbarred. So,
well, yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, I guess he gave up some things, but yeah, not to. Yeah, that's a long jump.
Have you seen the trailers for the White House Plumbers TV show?
No, I don't think so.
With Woody Harrelson.
Mm-mm.
It's about the White House Plumbers and the Watergate and all that stuff. And I think John Dean is played by I hate to say General Hux, but that's all I can think of right now.
Okay, so sorry, I'm looking. The election of the Kai is called the Bajoran Choosing Ceremony.
Okay.
And it is primarily a vote among the Vedics of the Vedic Assembly by which the Kai is chosen.
Okay, so I guess Kira was just joking around about like her vote and all that stuff. Or maybe she gets a special vote or something. Or maybe they decided to do a popular vote or something. I don't know. Good fact.
I always like to look through the memorable quotes, and one of them in here is, "I hate payday."
Yeah. Good old Quark.
Gotta give Quark something to do.
Only a little bit of Quark action, but it was pretty good.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't seen Rom in a while. Or Nog, for that matter.
Yeah. We definitely haven't seen Morn. Morn apparently won't be back until the season finale. He's off doing Morn stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I was reading some facts about the season finale earlier today. One of them involving Morn, so we'll get to that in a couple weeks, though.
Nice.
I won't do any previews.
Got anything else to say, or you want to jump into ratings?
I guess let's do the ratings. You can go ahead.
Okay,
go first this time.
I'm going to be generous. I don't even think I have to be generous. I'm going to give it a full captain because I think it was a really good episode.
Okay.
Early on, I was a little like, I don't know. But as it got into things, like this is, of course, all the things we love, which is like, ongoing story, Bajoran politics. Like we pointed out, they didn't feel the need to like give like Dax and Bashir and O'Brien just tons of extra scenes to put them in the episode or whatever. They like let the story really be itself.
Right.
I can't give it less than a captain, I think, because I think it just kind of meets that level of quality. Really good, like kind of slow, kind of what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like, like not snazzy, but I feel like it was really well written. It's one of those things where there's no glaring plot holes, which doesn't necessarily mean that you should give something a good rating just because it has no plot holes. But I felt like the writers took a lot of care. The actors, I think, clearly put a lot into it. I think so the result is pretty good. So I'm gonna give it a full. I said captain, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna give it a full captain. I'm still gonna put it under Blood Oath though.
Okay.
Just, Blood Oath, which is like a completely different kind of episode, but and although I guess when Opaka showed up in the vision, even though she was just a vision, I cheered a little bit. Although, I cheered way more when stuff happened in Blood Oath. But so that's where I'm gonna leave it.
Okay, before I get to my rating,
okay,
I took a moment to look up the history of vanilla wafers.
Okay.
The recipe for vanilla wafers or sugar wafers was first invented in the late 19th century by German-American confectioner Gustav A. Meyer on Staten Island. He sold his recipe to Nabisco, which began producing them under the name Vanilla Wafers in 1898.
Okay.
So a little early for anything Nazi to be going on.
He didn't go back to Germany and join the SS or anything like that.
Well, it doesn't have any he doesn't have his own Wikipedia entry, so I guess I can't know that for sure. But given that he was already an adult confectioner on Staten Island in 1898, he would have been pretty old to be joining the SS.
So Nilla wafers are not canceled for now.
Yeah.
And you can continue to enjoy them in your banana pudding. And if you live in a region where banana pudding is not a common thing, I really feel sorry for you.
So because of how popular they are in banana pudding, in the American South, I guess is primarily where you see banana pudding, it says. Right. In Atlanta and Houston, they're consistently in the top 5 best-selling cookie brands.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, sorry. back to what we're actually doing here.
If you ever come to Texas, go find a good barbecue joint, get some good brisket, and follow it up with some banana pudding.
Yep, can't go wrong.
Anyway, so you want to rate the episode now?
So I also think very highly of this episode. I am torn whether it belongs in the captain realm or whether it's like a very high commander.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So I think the question for me comes down to my top commander at the moment is the Siege. So, which is a similar sort of like, Bajoran politics centered thing.
Yeah.
Although I feel like it does a better job of incorporating the rest of the cast. And in not in a way like you talked about, it's just like, oh, well, we need something for them to be doing, but in a way where like Deep Space Nine and the crew actually feel important to what's happening. So yeah, I'm trying to decide if it's over the Siege. I think that would make it a captain. If it's under the Siege, clearly it would also be a commander. I think my instinct here is going to be to put it under the Siege.
Siege.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a commander, and it'll be my second highest commander.
Under Siege.
Yeah,
that's a movie. Okay, I just want to say, like, what a refreshingly like to the point title.
Yes, absolutely. Like, there's no confusion here. I mean, to be fair, the last one we did, Crossover, also a very to the point and made complete sense title. And 2 episodes before that was the Maquis Part 2 and Part 1, which once again, it's very straightforward. It you know exactly what's going on.
Maybe a little too straightforward, that one. But
yeah, that's fair.
A little uninspired. But maybe they've made a conscious decision to take a different approach with the titles.
Except in between there was The Wire, which we were like, what the fuck is The Wire?
We still don't understand what The Wire is about. I think a comment...
there was a comment that was like, Merriam-Webster has one definition of wire. It says hidden influences controlling the action of a person or organization.
Sure. Yeah. Good job on the titles, guys. I don't know who actually writes the titles. Like, do they vote on them or what? But...
They probably, like, by the time the script is written, they don't even care. They're like, yeah, call it whatever. We're tired. We're moving on to the next thing.
I think that's basically how they did it on The Simpsons, right? Like, they put, like, no effort into the titles.
Yeah, there's a few shows that it's like, well, we never expected anyone to see the titles because when they start making some of these shows, like, home video or DVD wasn't a thing, and they don't put the title in the episode. So there's like, we didn't think anyone would ever notice.
I mean, for a long time, I didn't even realize that the episodes of Twin Peaks had titles. Same with The Wire, actually, I think. Like, I don't think until I saw that on streaming, I realized that those episodes actually had titles. But any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, glad to have you guys back for Deep Space Nine. We love our Deep Space Nine loving listeners. I know Picard is more popular, especially like in terms of numbers, especially on Apple. But man, it's just nice to be back in Deep Space Nine. I don't know. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description where I occasionally put links to interesting things. I'll put a recipe for banana pudding down there. Do not use the banana flavored pudding in your banana pudding. Yeah. That is gross. Use vanilla pudding. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
Adios.
And remember, every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies.